Good evening and welcome to the Monday, June 10th, 2013 Gaithersburg Mayor and Council work session. Tonight we have one item on our agenda, and that's a presentation on the synthetic turf field at Lakelands Park. And Michelle Potter and Jim McGuire and Mark Scafidi will be explaining all that to us, please. Whoever's going to begin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wait for the presentation to load. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are pleased to be at this point conducting this presentation to educate you on our process and decision making on the city's first synthetic turf field. For planning purposes, the design and engineering was part of the FY13 capital improvements budget. In December of 2012, Mayor and City Council approved a resolution in an amount not to exceed $46,000 for surveying and engineering services. The construction of the city's first synthetic turf is identified in the capital projects for FY14. As you know, the location selected for this project is the full-size regulation soccer field at Lakelands Park. The site was identified upon staff's review of the city's inventory of fields. The selection criteria reviewed the need, hours of use, and the ability to expand program opportunities. A contributing factor included the challenges of maintaining the natural turf at a safe standard suitable for organized activities and the enjoyment of the community. Staff engaged in a comprehensive research of synthetic turf during a 10-year period. Information was gathered through interviews with public and private entities that utilize synthetic turf, through site visits, seminars, and workshops that were endorsed by the National Recreation and Parks Association and the Maryland Recreation and Parks Association. These workshops celebrated the successes and avoided the myths associated with synthetic turf. The original AstroTurf surfaced in 1966. It was short-piled fibers with no infill. Players complained of increased likelihood of injury to joints and skin abrasions compared to natural turf. The second generation appeared in the 70s and 80s. It was a flatter surface and included sand infill to help the blade stay upright as natural grass. This updated version somewhat reduced injury complaints, but abrasions continued due to the sand infill. The third generation emerged in the 90s. It had longer fibers, blades spaced further apart, which allowed the shoe cleat to sink deeper and greatly reduced joint injuries. The material was changed from polypropylene to polyethylene, which is softer to the skin. Rubber granules were mixed with the sand infill to ensure a more comfortable playing surface even when tackling. We are now in the fourth generation, which is comprised of softer, stronger fibers with an anti-microbial infill, typically acrylic-coated green-colored sand or black crumb rubber particles, which give a soft, natural feel and addresses environmental and broader sustainability concerns, along with improved drainage. In 2009, Penn State released a study that synthetic grasses are not a hospitable environment for microbial activities such as staph. Several individuals and organizations have expressed health-related concerns regarding synthetic turf. The Centers for Disease Control, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, and various public health departments have made attempts to address these trepidations. In today's materials, all turf pigment is lead-free.
Lakeland Park exceeds 1,700 hours of use annually. Three principal users of Lakeland Park Field are the City of Gaithersburg sports and summer camps, Montgomery County Public Schools for their physical education and after-school sports.
Jim, you better be telling the truth. It's coming close.
And the community. Fields experiencing greater than 1,000 hours of use are recommended for removal from the active inventory for service, rest, and recovery. But the city is not in a position to take this field out of service. The photo that you see is an example and represents the conditions of the soccer field at Lakelands Park.
Synthetic turf reduced maintenance and related issues associated with natural grass management. The slide on the screen provides a cost comparison between synthetic turf and natural grass. You can see there's a substantial cost savings of 75% per field. The slide data was provided compliments of Howard County Recreation and Parks who have 14 fields and are planning 10 additional.
You know, your numbers don't add up there. It's 21,000, not 27.
Howard County Parks and Recreation. I'll have to look back at that. Synthetic turf is safer. The turf maintains an even surface with repeated use. In contrast, natural turf creates wears unevenly, creating ruts and dips that can cause injury. Synthetic turf is durable. One synthetic turf field can handle approximately 6 times the play of a natural turf field. Through a joint use agreement, the field adjacent to Lakelands Park Middle School is used both during the school day, after school, and on weekends, and for summer approximately 1,700 hours. Due to continued use, this field cannot be removed for rehabilitation, resulting in diminishing field conditions and a safety hazard. The synthetic turf field provides a greater field flexibility and a potential for 3,000 hours of playability. Synthetic turf reduces pollution. Turf fields do not require fertilizer, helping to reduce the major source of Chesapeake Bay pollution. It does not require pesticides, herbicides to ensure groundwater recharge and controlling runoff of silt and erosion in our local streams. The infield is made of thousands of tires that would have normally been landfilled to create their safe playing surface. The carpet itself is made of recycled materials and can easily be recycled at the end of its useful life.
As previously mentioned, the National Turf Council recommended annual use for a natural grass field to be 1,000 hours. Synthetic turf will serve as a tool in resolving the continued growing demands for field time. The turf allows games to be played in inclement weather, reducing the administrative time associated with cancellations and rescheduling. Synthetic turf enables expansion of formal programs and the opportunity for the community to enjoy recreation spaces.
The area outlined in the red rectangle indicates the existing soccer field. This is the site for installation of the synthetic turf.
Michelle, do you know offhand how big that rectangle is? Sorry to interrupt.
Do you know the dimensions?
Yeah, the outermost field is 360 by 150.
Thank you.
I believe. Yeah.
As stated earlier, we were able to kickstart our design process in December of last year. The layout of the field is designed to meet the city recreation program trends and needs and will provide the school with areas consistent with physical education and their team sports requirements. The proposed field design will meet the requirements for three levels of soccer and flag football. The ability to secure and anchor soccer goals is incorporated into the field design. This follows the prescribed national guidelines for safety. City staff reviewed the design and project timeline with Lakelands Park Middle School physical education staff, the principal, and the PTSA president. They were extremely pleased with all aspects of the project. We will continue to provide the school administration with progress updates throughout the project. Lastly, staff will update the Lakelands Park field use agreement with the Board of Education.
So just real quickly, we have a design board here. This is so everybody out there can see, it's just currently the soccer field at Lakelands.
Yeah, they're gonna, Mark, you gotta use the mic.
Need to use the mark, the
And
mic,
the-
Mark. And right, and it's on the board.
Can
in
everybody
front
hear
of
me?
it. Yeah.
So this is the current field now. The school's over this way. This is the auxiliary field, and this is the current soccer field. So I'm going to put just a little layout here and try and get it in the G is going to actually be upside down to us, but it's going to face towards the street. So what this does is, as Jim and Michelle said, there's going to be 3 size fields in there. There's going to be a smaller field that will accommodate the grades 1 through 2, so smaller soccer games. The next one will be grades 3 to 6, and then the outside ring will be for the actual middle school use. What the layout and the design takes into consideration was all the paths around the field. The paths on 3 sides will not be touched at all. This path here will actually come out and around the bleacher area and back to it to reconnect the path, because the field's going to be totally 100% fenced in to keep people from driving vehicles, trying not to make it a dog park and to use stuff like that. The main entrance to the field for the school will be through this pathway, so they'll walk down to this path, and hopefully if it's a muddy day or stuff like that, by walking down the asphalt path and entering the field here, they will have time to have knocked some of the dirt and the stuff off of their shoes. There'll be maintenance gates on both ends of the field. That'll be wide 10, 12-foot gates so we can get equipment in to maintain the field.
What kind of equipment is that, Mark?
We have a John Deere Gator, and you pull it's almost like a drag behind it. It has bristles, it's a brush, and you drag it up and down the field to drag the crumb rubber around, and so you keep the surface nice and even and nice and smooth. That's probably, weekly to bi-weekly, depending on how much the field is actually used. So we're past that one, yep. So we'll go to the signage. So signage will be installed on the fence denoting the new rules and regulations associated with synthetic turf. This is an actual sign that they're using at Gaithersburg High School now for their synthetic turf field. This is a sequence of steps to be completed leading to the actual construction of the field. Weather permitting, the estimate actual construction time is 45 to 60 days. We anticipate using the field in spring of 2014.
The project cost estimate is approximately $1 million. The Board of Public Works, comprised of the Governor, Treasurer, and Comptroller, approved our project to be funded by Program Open Space dollars. Therefore, the city will be reimbursed 75% of the total cost, or $747,000.
Existing synthetic fields are exceeding their projected life cycle. Some existing synthetic turf fields are approaching 15 to 20 years of service. The extended life expectancy of a field is directly associated with a dedicated maintenance program, attention to the weekly and monthly maintenance cycle, cleaning and replenishing the filament as needed, and are known contributors to the extension of the life. A standard industry warranty of 8 years is customary. Staff is pursuing potential opportunities to increase the number of years of this warranty and will engage in discussions throughout the process. The critical component to the project's success is seeking and awarding a contract to a qualified turf installer. When it is time to replace the field, the infrastructure that is underground, which includes the control for stormwater runoff, will remain in place. The top layer of carpet will be removed and placed as the former will be recycled. A series of synthetic field installations is recommended over the next 4 years. The synthetic fields will assist in meeting the growing demand for fields, provide the opportunity to expand programs and sports, and serve as a revenue resource.
This concludes our presentation. We're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you all. Any questions of the panel? And then we'll get to the
So
public.
I'll ask the first one, I guess, if that's okay. We've had about an inch, almost 2 inches of rain in the last 24 hours. On the current field, it'd be out of service for days probably. We have a baseball park that's supposed to have an opening tomorrow. I don't think that's going to happen. That'll probably be out for a couple of days, maybe the rest of the week, who knows. How long would this field be out of service after
Typically,
rain like this?
Typically, a field can go back into play that afternoon. With the runoff system and the subterranean work that goes along with this, that goes along with this project, it takes the water that would be on the top of the turf and filters it through the system. And then within a couple hours after the rain stops, you can get right back out there and play.
So how thick is the foundation for the carpet? I mean, I know there's a standard structure, but of the foundation as well as a drainage system. So how much is underneath that,
Well,
as well as the carpet itself?
the subterranean, the below visibility level, that can range anywhere from 18 inches to 2 feet, depending on what is required of the landfill at the time. Sometimes I've seen it where you've had a level of crushed stone, then another level on top of it, and then it works as a sift through there. Other times, companies have had to go in, upgrade the amount of soil there to get the compaction proper, because without the proper compaction, the substructure would fail. And that's where you see most of your difficulties with synthetic turf fields. It's not the actual carpet, but it's the subterranean.
So when the water percolates through the carpet and then the foundation or the subterranean features, does it drain into another drainage system, or does it just go into the water table?
It goes through a drainage system and exits the field through usually a stormwater management.
Okay. And then the last thing, the thing that I've heard the most, I've read the most about is the concerns about the rubber crumb infill and the infill. And there's concerns that the tire crumb infill actually has some heavy metal toxins or that are potential toxins. Is our bid going to include request or bidding for a crumb infill that is not made of recycled rubber tires or some other material? Because I've read that the industry is moving away from the recycled rubber tires and moving to another compound that's more inert and less likely to leach out these heavy metals.
Each one of the companies that would be presumably bidding on this process has its own individual filament for this project. There would be no reason why that the city couldn't go into specifications, what it would like to have in there, the breakdown between sand versus chrome rubber versus another material. That can all be specified and we can outline that very clearly in a bid document as we would get proposals.
Okay, and the last question is, I don't know how many fields. I think there's over a dozen fields installed by MCPS now in the county. Are they doing any follow-up testing and evaluation for runoff, the quality of runoff, and the possible hazards from the runoff from their fields?
We would have to research that.
Okay.
I have not heard of anything at this moment.
Well, we'll get to the public.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else?
I was curious, were the restrictions on food within the entire fenced area or on the field itself?
Well, with the fence being, as our plan is to fence the field right up to the turf itself, that would be on the actual field of play. Anything on the outside of the fencing.
So people who are watching the game would be outside the fence?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Is there a concern about the heat that's generated by the turf?
Absolutely. When the first fields were put in, there was intense heat. Philadelphia had its Veterans Stadium, which was notorious for up to 145, 150 degrees on a playing day. That was one of the original AstroTurf concepts. University of Maryland just recently installed a field with a new filament that would be one of the items that we would be looking into that drastically reduces the heat on the field. To sit here and say that it won't be warm, it won't be hot at times, that would be inaccurate for me to say that. But there are methods of filament that are now reducing that heat.
But I guess compared to the natural turf, it is warmer than the natural
Yes.
turf, regardless of the new filament that Maryland is using, or University of Maryland is using. Okay. Anybody else, please?
In terms of the chart of maintenance costs, as Henry mentioned, the column for natural turf, those numbers don't add up. What's the right number there in terms of a total maintenance cost per year estimate for natural turf?
I think it adds up to 21,000.
It's 20. I did it. It's 23.
I did
It's
that.
23.
Yeah, it is. That's a typo on our part, and I apologize for that. So
Okay.
that's can't hide from it. That's our mistake.
It
So.
should be 23 instead of 27?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
But essentially, the number we should be looking at is that $23,000 to maintain annually natural turf, $6,200 to maintain synthetic. So we're saving in maintenance cost potentially approximately $17 a year.
Sure, exactly. That definitely more than 3 times the cost, and you can get back on the field a lot quicker. And just one more quick thing about when we were talking about the substructure, we actually did bore testing out there, so we kind of know what we're dealing with soil-wise. So there was a couple spots, that were a little softer, and so we're putting that into the bid package for more stone there to make sure that everything's at the proper grade and structurally the field's in good shape. The structure underneath the carpet that's where all the money is spent, but if you do a good job at that, then the rest of it, it's very good for the field and it helps it have a longer life.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, one of the things when you don't look at the lower maintenance cost, you don't add in the actual cost of the, you're adding $250,000, which is about $12,000 a month or some. If you do the math, that's a lot of cost it has to be associated with. You don't have that kind of cost with natural turf. So, there are some other costs in here that are.
Are you talking about the capital cost of building it?
Yeah, but if you take the $250,000 to build it and you amortize it over 20 years, it's so much money per month. And,
Yeah, okay, I just didn't know if that's what you meant.
Yeah. And you don't have that cost with natural turf. You have some, as you said, in some of the maintenance and stuff like that. But so there is a significant cost involved. It's not 23 to 6. It's 23 to about 17. Which is still a savings, and you get the long life expectancy.
Well, you also get revenue.
And you get more
the entire
use of it.
year.
So there's some pluses and minuses, but I want to make sure that we're getting all of our ducks in a row here.
Sure, exactly, and you have a lot less in game cancellations and scheduling.
Absolutely.
And, all of us have had or have kids that are in youth sports, and a game gets canceled, and you have 2 or 3 back to back. So really, the recovery of the field is remarkable, and you'll actually see. I've seen it in Howard County where people actually play on the field while it's raining. So the field remains in good condition.
Right.
Even in heavy weather.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Even in South Germantown Park, I've been there in the winter, and they've actually played when it's been snowing, and they've actually moved the snow off to the sides, and people were sitting in their lawn chairs playing in the winter.
Okay, go ahead.
I've seen some questions arise regarding the degree of compaction for injuries like concussions. I know you talked a little bit about joint injury and the give on the different types of turf. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about whether there's any different data about the compaction relative to head injuries, things like that. I know that sometimes clay and dirt fields can be pretty compact as well. So I don't know if you all have any research on that.
We have some, but very minimal. And I don't think we would be in a position at this moment to be able to provide a quality answer at that time. We have looked into compaction. We've looked into compression testing. That really came into play with more of your physical sports like football, where you're going to have equipment. That is required, I know for a fact, on when you have a tackle football program, that compression testing is required annually. Fortunately, we don't have that type of a program. Not saying that it isn't important to do that, but that would provide us with another opportunity. We can definitely get the information.
Right, and I had done a lot of research just looking at what are the injury rates and all of that with synthetic turf field, and concussions did not appear anywhere on the radar. But we can talk with local jurisdictions that have fields in play and inquire.
But I think that in the studies that I've read, most of the serious injuries that we were looking at were football. Like you said, Jim, and this primarily a soccer field and maybe some other games of running, but not football.
Correct.
Anybody else?
Yeah, on the slides it said that you would expect to use the field about 1,500 hours a year. How many of those would be ones where people were paying rental fees, and what would the rental fees be?
Well, the rental fees were just approved within the budget recently, starting at $100 an hour. and they could go up to as much as $160 an hour if you were a non-resident, and that would include lights involved with that. Obviously, some rentals would not.
But the school use is not,
school
doesn't
use-
have a fee, right?
That is correct.
So how much of, what percentage of the total would be the school use?
Well, under the 1,700 hours right now, it's approximately 33%.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thank you all very much. This, Jim, are you going to be holding the microphone, please? This is a time that the mayor and council hears from anyone who'd like to speak on this work session topic. We try to keep our work sessions less formal. You're welcome to stay seated, and a member of city staff, Jim Arnault, will bring the microphone to you. We ask that you please keep remarks to no more than 3 minutes. Please note the timer will beep and blink yellow when you have 30 seconds left of your 3 minutes so that you can begin to finish your statement. The timer will beep and turn red when your 3 minutes is up. Please note that any additional testimony that you might have can be submitted to the city in written form and will be considered just as your oral testimony. Please state your name and address for the record. I see you have the microphone.
I do,
Please.
and thank you, Jim. My name is Diana Conway. I live in 10600 River Road in Potomac, Maryland, in an 1820s farmhouse, one of the last ones left. I am here to oppose the artificial turf field on 3 bases. First is economic, second is environmental, and third is health and safety. As of health and safety, those fields go to 150 degrees on 90-degree days. If you've ever been in a room at 150 degrees and then you try playing a soccer game in it, you can fry an egg in it, no problem. And imagine the middle-aged refs running up and down with those kids. Second is MRSA, Methicillin resistant staph infection. I've got the first word wrong, I know that. There's a University of Chicago study showing that their artificial turf field created the environment of much more abrasion, so when the kids fall, they scrape, and they get much worse scrapes on their thighs, arms, legs, faces, whatever, and then they go into these sort of steamy, hot locker rooms, sharing towels, sharing soap, sharing whatever it is, and that's how those things pass around. It's not coming off the field per se. Second item was economic. These fields cost about $1 million a pop, and it's very nice that it says that it's a 20-year lifespan, but the experience of most of the people that we've been in touch with, and we are now a very small but national coalition. We've got people in Greenwich, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, California, Washington State, a couple other jurisdictions. Nobody's getting 20 years out of these fields. And a field that's 20 years old is the ones that they were talking about as the first or second generation that were having the very high injury rates, because it was just concrete with a thin slab of, a rug like this laid over it. That's not going to protect you if you crash to the ground with a 200-pound guy on top of you. And then the third one, that was, sorry? The environmental. These are 30,000 tons of shredded tires. Everything that's good for a tire is bad for a child. And to say that these fields are not intended for children is ridiculous, because most of them are going into places where children are going to be playing. There is lead, there's selenium, there's zinc, there's cadmium, there's arsenic. If it's not going up into their lungs when it gets disturbed by the running and the disturbance, it's going down into our creeks. And guess where we're drinking it? The fish are eating it. The amphibians don't recognize that it's not an actual food product because it's these little tiny pellets. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be happy to talk to you again.
And we did receive, you handed to us tonight, so the public is aware of some information on writing as well. Please.
Hi, my name is Gail Dalfries. I live in Kensington, Maryland, and I have 2 handouts that I'll give to you after.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention a couple of things from the prior testimony about safety. We did some research. I'm with the Safe Healthy Playing Fields Coalition, which Diana spoke of, and we did some research with pediatricians in Johns Hopkins, because we wanted to try to understand this issue of safety and the claims of one being I'll give to you after.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention a couple of things from the prior testimony about safety. We did some research. I'm with the Safe Healthy Playing Fields Coalition, which Diana spoke of, And we did some research with pediatricians in Johns Hopkins because we wanted to try to understand this issue of safety and the claims of one being more natural turf being more or less safe than a synthetic turf field. Johns Hopkins is unable to make a determination because there are too many factors. You have to take into account the size of the person, the type of shoes they're wearing, the type of sport they're playing, and there's just too many variations to say that one field is safer in terms of concussions or ACL injuries or anything else. There was a mention of the new fields at the University of Maryland, and we all know that they lost 5 of their starting players last year after the field got installed from ACL injuries. Could be coincidence, but the other is in terms of your contract and how you're bidding this out. The life of the field is 8 years. After 8 years, your field is no longer warrantied, and after that warranty expires, you will pay, or even before the warranty expires, when you need to replace your field, it's a $750,000 to $1 million replacement cost. And that's what we're seeing in terms of these fields that are starting to turn over. There is no evidence of a recycling program. We can't find any evidence that these fields are recycled. How could you? It's tire crumb. It's not. They're being recycled technically into these fields under our kids' feet and in their lungs and into our streams. But what do you do with it when it comes off the field? We've seen them in dumpsters, but we haven't seen any evidence or any evidence from the industry about what is this recycling program. So I would be very interested if there's information about that. The hours of play are restricted in your contract, and if you exceed those hours of play, you void your contract. Stormwater management does not keep the tire crumb from entering the streams and waterways, and there are known carcinogens in that material. And as Diana said, these elements are entering our food chain through the fish that are ingesting this stuff, and there are the heat. We talked about the heat, and that continues to be an issue. Even if you have the state-of-the-art field, which will cost you much more than what's been quoted, your heat is still an issue. And that restricts your hours of play, because on an 80-degree day, which we have many of, the heat on the field is too extreme for kids to play longer than 20 minutes. I have a handout from giving you some information about comparable installations for natural turf fields, which I would recommend that if you're going to bid this out to synthetic turf manufacturers, that you also bid it out for natural turf replacement.
Thank you very much. And if you can just hand the information to Judd, please. Any other speakers, please? No, well, you've had your 3 minutes. We'll give everybody 1 more minute at the end. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Eileen Conley, and I live at 909 Clopper Road.
You're going to need to hold the mic. There you go. Thank you.
I live at 909 Clopper Road, apartment A4, and my name's Eileen Conley. And I just have 3 questions before you decide on this. I see the good in it, but my children are 31 and 29, and I see history repeating itself, and that worries me. My children both had dealings with Osgood-Schlatter disease, which is in the shin splints, and with concussions because they were both avid soccer players. And when they ran on the pavement when they were practicing. And I don't see a lot of difference between that and this. There might be, but I just hope you really look at those issues. And then the second question I have is, could you look into the water? I'm very concerned about the water. And then the third is the concussions. I've seen children in the 80s who fell on similar turf and cracked their head. And I just hope history doesn't repeat itself. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll get answers for everything that's being questioned this evening. Anybody else, please? Jim, you have a lady in the corner.
Good, so we can see you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, much appreciated.
My name is Janice Tartucci, 10116 Limestone Court, Potomac, Maryland. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Let me see how much I can say in 3 minutes. Let's just cut to the chase. This is going to be a field turf field. Field turf has gotten all the other POS money for the other fields that have been put in by government agencies in Maryland. So we know it's going to be field turf. It happens in one of 2 ways. One, the agency will claim that they're using a group buying service, that they're buying. What MCPS is that their prices are based on a buying service out of Pennsylvania. they're not using the Pennsylvania buying service. If you actually use the Pennsylvania buying service, you actually spend more than MCPS is paying. And there's never been a document produced by MCPS that shows they're using a buying service. They just buy straight from Field Turf. The second way that it's done is by the consultant coming in saying, you know, the only way to do this field is to get Duraspine 2.0, and oh, oops, Field Turf is the only manufacturer that makes that. Bingo, it's a Field Turf field. And here's what's interesting. When Field Turf is in other jurisdictions in Pennsylvania and Ohio, which are considered in the same geographical area with Maryland, and a jurisdiction like the city of Gaithersburg bids out the field, those jurisdictions pay $500,000 to $600,000 for an artificial turf field. But here in Montgomery County, we don't put out bids, and so we pay $1 million. So I would ask you all to maybe be a little radical and put out competitive bids and see what happens. You're going to end up with a field turf field. I don't have any doubt about that, but you're going to pay a whole lot less if you make it a competitive process versus just picking field turf. The replacement cost, Towson University has had a field turf field put in with POS funds. It lasted 4.5 years. The carpet failed, not the underground, the carpet failed. And so within 5 years, Towson had spent $1 million for 2 fields to be put in. So keep that in mind, that 8 years might sound nice, but that's not exactly what's happening. Again, I'll echo what Gail said, recycled, please show us where, because we can't find it. If MCPS is your model and you're going to say you're going to partner with them and piggyback off of their contract, be aware that the Montgomery County Inspector General is investigating MCPS's arrangement right now. No report from him yet. Next, where do those rubber pellets go? We know they leave the field. We know they go off the field. Where do they go? No, there is no stormwater testing of these fields. There's no runoff testing. We've been before the council on this issue. Also, revenue. MCPS has 5 fields. Last year, the revenue was $40,000. 5 fields, $40,000. So it's great to claim that there's going to be a $100,000 fee for the field per hour, but you got to find people to pay that. MCPS is not finding the people to pay for the fields. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers, please? Going once. Did you have one? We'll give you 1 minute. And the way our timer works, it doesn't go to the 1, so I will be the one to tell you when your minute is up. Okay.
I have faith in your courtesy.
Thank you very much, Diane.
We can't find the recycling. In addition to the warnings about that you showed a warning sign about, you know, no cleats, no this, no that, about protecting the field. How about something about the heat to protect the players? The Soccerplex, Jared Minnick, the guy who runs the Soccerplex, 19 natural turf fields, 3 artificial turf fields. He hates the artificial turf fields. He and his board have agreed collectively that they will not allow children on the artificial turf fields during the summer, during the day, because it is so blank hot. They are concerned about liability and injury. They're not making this stuff up. He also believes that he can run 5 natural turf fields for the cost of 1 artificial turf field, and he's running them both. And he also pointed out that the sand-based field does well in the rain, and following Hurricane Irene and a tropical depression that brought over 13 inches to D.C. in 4 days, the University of Maryland moved a rainy day match to the Soccerplex. The grass field at Maryland was unplayable, but the grass field at Soccerplex Stadium was ready for play.
You're at the minute. Thank you very much. And as I say, is that on the information that you handed us this evening?
Our website is on there, and you can find us through that.
Okay.
I didn't want to swamp you. I'd be
Okay,
happy
well,
to
we'll
swamp
read
you.
it. No, you're not going to swamp
You can
us.
provide
We'll-
additional,
We can give it to you.
Yeah,
you
okay.
can provide
You'll give it
additional
to us.
comments in
Right.
writing if you
Sure.
want.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You can
We don't
email
feel
us.
swamped. Okay, where are we going from here?
Can I ask
At this
another
point-
question?
Sure.
Is the plan to put this out for competitive bid?
Definitely
Yes.
so.
So they said that earlier.
Yes. Oh, yeah, definitely.
I just wanted to
so.
make sure that everybody heard that. Okay, thank
We're
you.
not writing any bids or contracts. We're going out to bid.
Thank you.
Do you guys
And-
want to respond to the questions about recycling?
I was going to say, if you know the answers,
Yeah.
is there anything you want to respond to now? If not, you'll get back to us and to the public.
I think that would be best.
Okay.
I would like to see some more numbers on these maintenance. I mean, I agree with you that, you know, for kids, you're going to play a lot more games on here, and you're not going to get rained out, you're not going to have the muddy spots, and I understand all that. But when it comes down to the, the nitty gritty, how much is it really going to cost? And some of the numbers you gave, We need to factor in all the cost of purchase, the cost of, renewing and all those things that, I'm not sure that we have all the right numbers yet, so if you could, really take a look at it, I would appreciate that, because, I hear what you're saying, but there are some issues, and we need to make sure that we look at all the facts before we make that decision.
And some of it we don't actually know yet because we're going to go out to bid, so we don't know what the cost will be.
And whether or not anybody other than Howard County has had any experience with fields like we're having. To talk about like a football field, and we're not going to be playing football, is a different, it's a different scenario.
Absolutely.
So anyhow, you have 1 minute. You'll give you 1 minute. Please.
Gail Dolphries again. So I just wanted to mention, for the state of Maryland had a bill up this year that we testified on, and one of the things we put together was a 20-year cost assessment comparing natural to synthetic turf fields, and that cost assessment has natural turf lower. I don't know if you plan on renting the equipment that you're going to need for the synthetic turf fields, but the proper equipment is essential, and the maintenance goes year-round, whereas on a natural turf field, your maintenance is just during the growing season. So things like that need to be taken into account, and what Jared Minnick and others who manage these turf and artificial and natural turf fields are saying is, with the right approach and the right the right use of our natural resources, we can do as good or better with natural turf as we can do with a synthetic product. The earth under a synthetic turf field is absolutely useless once you're done with it. To go back is incredibly expensive. So this is a big decision.
Thank
I
you
say
very
go
much.
natural.
And you have heard the questions, and whenever you can get to the answers, please.
So
Did you have anything else to-
let me ask another
Okay, go
question
ahead.
here. So one of the issues with maintaining a natural turf field is basically taking it out of rotation. What are our options at this location or any other location where we might be considering turf about taking it out of use, taking it offline, so that it can be maintained, new growth established, et cetera?
We did take this field out of service. I can't remember whether it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but we took it out for literally a spring, summer, and into the fall.
So 6 months.
6 months.
Okay.
And just the number of hours of use that's formal, informal, the ability to try to maintain and fill in the patches, and with the need for fields for our own programs, our numbers in soccer are astronomical. So we pretty much have every field going in full use and full capacity. So it really does inhibit us from taking a true removal of the field out of programming services for the length of time that it would really be required.
Right, and we are approached by a lot of organizations that want to rent fields, and we just don't have the ability to do that. We don't have the capacity for them. And then some of them have wanted to enter into partnerships for the synthetic turf, but their arrangement is that they would monopolize the time frame and we wouldn't be able to use it. So.
Yeah. Tony, did you have anything else to add?
I would just suggest, the staff will respond comprehensively to the five, just run them by you really quickly, and then make an additional point. First of all, according to government accounting standards, I know that this field will be considered a fixed asset, like a truck. Anything else there? Schedules for replacement, and it is a concern, that we know exactly what those replacement costs are, and the specialized equipment that's going to be needed. So I think that we're going to need to amortize that over 8 or 15 or 20. I'm not really sure, but somebody knows, and we'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah, I will just add to that. I know certainly our staff, for instance, at the water park, has made the slide structures last significantly longer than their rated life because we did regular maintenance and upkeep. So
same thing with a lot of our equipment.
right.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I'm sure we will get what we're promised. Whether we can get more than that.
Okay, go ahead.
And then whether the new carpet costs $1 million or $200,000, we're going to have to create a replacement fund like we do for vehicles, and fund that each year according to GASB rules and the specialized equipment as well. I spoke with several departments today about the environmental and the health concerns, and we'll put that in the comprehensive response. Our rules for purchasing require a competitive bid for a purchase of this sort. And then evidence of and then make an additional point. First of all, according to government accounting standards, I know that this field will be considered a fixed asset, like a truck. Anything else there? Schedules for replacement? And it is a concern, that we know exactly what those replacement costs are, and the specialized equipment that's going to be needed. So I think that we're going to need to amortize that over 8 or 15 or 20. I'm not really sure, but somebody knows, and we'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah, I will just add to that. I know certainly our staff, for instance, at the water park, has made the slide structures last significantly longer than their rated life because we did regular maintenance and upkeep. So
Same thing with a lot of our equipment.
right. So
Yes.
I'm sure we will get what we're promised. Whether we can get more than that.
Okay, go ahead.
And then whether the new carpet costs $1 million or $200,000, we're going to have to create a replacement fund like we do for vehicles, and fund that each year according to GASB rules and the specialized equipment as well. I spoke with several departments today about the environmental and the health concerns, and we'll put that in the comprehensive response. Our rules for purchasing require competitive bid for a purchase of this sort, and then evidence of recycling. I mean, it's out there or it's not. So we're going to let you know what we find. But kind of an associated issue is we do want to study field allocation. We do feel like we have the rectangular fields, soccer, lacrosse. There's much higher demand than baseball and softball fields right now, and we may look at adding, taking a baseball field out, for example, possibly Kelly Park or somewhere like that, and replacing it with an additional field. Could be grass, could be synthetic, but it would add to the rotation. So we'll get you a comprehensive response.
In this particular area, though, there isn't a substitute
There isn't.
field
This is the only
location,
one.
right? I mean,
For us and the school,
Right,
which
right.
is the complicating factor.
Yeah.
We'll give you 1 minute. Go ahead, please.
Oh, no, I just.
You're going to need to speak on the mic.
I just wanted to follow up, when you're talking about the field that's there now, my impression is that is not a high-end natural grass field, and from having been around the artificial turf discussion for a long time, there's a huge difference. Having met the people that put down these high-end natural grass fields, there's a sand layer. They're designed with drainage. They're designed with a stronger grass. There's a big difference between a high-end natural grass field probably and what you have on the field right now. And that's the comparison that we have been asking for years for anyone to make. Compare artificial turf to a high-end natural grass field, which might be what you get out at soccer clubs. That's the issue. That's why theirs is different. They don't have to do this taking out of service type of thing. It's a total, and I wish you'd educate yourself about that because there's a big difference. Thanks.
But they don't have to take it out of service because they can rotate the fields. They take one out of service, they have several other fields to use and maintain. And they're not used at the same, they're probably not utilized at the same extent or intensity as this particular field is because it's shared between the city and the school system. So there are some differences that I think you need to educate yourself about.
He disagrees.
Okay, we're not going to have a debate.
No, I'm just saying. There's.
I agree. But I just wanted to point out some of the points that you're making as well. And
but you haven't compared to high. That's what I'm asking.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So, Tony, we have our list.
I think we do.
Okay. And do we have anything else to come before us this evening? No. Next Monday, June 17th, we're going to have a regular mayor and council meeting. The following Monday, June 24th, we will not have a work session so that many of us can attend the Maryland Municipal League Convention in Ocean City. And do you have any idea when we'll be getting back on these answers? And obviously, if the public that is here, they gave us, I think most people gave us their address, but if not, if you can make certain that your address was given to the staff so that we can also make certain that they get it. Do you have any idea when? I mean, I'm not going to hold you to the day or something. But
We have a senior staff meeting tomorrow morning where all the department heads will be there. So
Right.
I think we can at least get you an answer on when an answer would be.
Okay, all right, that's fair. And if you will make certain that they get your address so that they'll also contact you and phone number. Thank you very much for being with us. We are adjourned.